Day 84, everybody. Day 84 of my sobriety, and my hair looks every bit of it.
Everything bothers him.
He's unbothered.
He calls it unbothered, but that's what's cute because everything bothers him. He's bothered. I'm a botherina.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Unbothered by Thai Rivera. That's right, it's Unbothered by Thai Rivera. I'm your host, Thai Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. In case you're wondering, my co-host Snoopy Bijou has gone back to eating alligators, or she ate one alligator the other day, and she seemed pretty enthused about it. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed. The next day, though, and I don't know if this had to do with the alligator or this had to do with the fact that we have been on the road, because me and Snoopy B have not been on the road that much lately, and then we decided to go to Sacramento for just a turnaround trip. And what happened with that is she came back, she ate the alligator, then the next day she had a little bit of an accidente when we were in bed. But, you know, my Bijou doesn't do that when she's having behavioral problems. You know, if she's mad at me, she just won't kiss me. But she doesn't have any reason to not be happy with me most of the time. Outside of her little bitchy, I'm not going to kiss you situation. She's usually pretty chill. And so she had a little bit of an accident in bed. And it happens like, well, she's never had an accident, especially in bed. And so like her having any kind of accident, because she also has her litter box, is so rare that I wasn't going to give her a hard time about that little bit of an accident that she had that day. I just went ahead and put Shout on my comforter and my duvet, and I just have to wash them again. I have them soaking in Shout, basically. What I do is I douse stuff with Shout when I need it. Then I'll let it sit there for a couple of days, and then tomorrow's officially laundry day. And so, you know, she's been good ever since. My little tank is pretty hardy. We both have pretty hardy systems, so that's something we have in common. And I'm not really worried about her because she doesn't show any signs of being sick. Technically, she's got a lot of energy for such an old gal, but she's not really that old. You know, people will try to throw that on your dog and be like, your dog's this age, so that means they must be going through this. And Bijou's having none of it. So also, Karla's homemade salsa, still going strong with Karla's homemade salsa. I haven't been able to eat it for the last couple of days, only because my meals, the way that they've been working out lately, it didn't work out with that. Like, you know, because I don't want to just force putting Karla's homemade salsa on something. But I still love Karla's homemade salsa. I'm going to have it tonight because tonight's going to be my first night returning back to boneless, skinless chicken breast, which if you follow my channel, you know the struggle is real when it comes to me and boneless, skinless chicken breast. Like, I go back to it every once in a while, and I realize how much I hate it again. So we're going to try it again tonight. I'm not going to try to let that get in my head. I've been going to the gym 2-a-days for today's day 3. I've been doing 2-a-days. So I'll go and I'll do cardio for an hour, and then I come home in between. I do stuff like this. Like yesterday or the day before, I recorded a video that I put up, and that's why Unbothered is on a Thursday again, because I don't like to put out too many videos at once, but I'm going to start doing that again anyway. But it's just like sometimes I feel like, okay, let's give it at least a day in between videos, especially since Unbothered is such a long video. And I don't really do a lot of editing on Unbothered unless I have a guest, and then I have to like do back and forth. And so, you know, I tell you guys, I'm just doing the things that I feel like I should be doing right now. And if my skin looks especially good, that's because I've been drinking a lot of water. I've also been hitting the sauna. So after I do my hour of cardio, I do 20 minutes in the sauna. Then I go and do squats. Then I come home, and squats, I do 200 of them. It's this program that I told you guys I'm trying, and I'm going to let you guys see the results of it, but only after 6 months. And last time I think I lied to you guys because I said I was 3 months in, but it was May that I did it. So it was May to June is 1 month. June to July is 2 months. So we're at over just 2 months now. And I am seeing a difference, but nothing dramatic. And I'm not going to lie to you guys and make it seem like, oh my God, it's been amazing. But it definitely has shown an improvement. And if you know anything about working with your body, you have to accept the improvements. You have to accept the progress and not look for some kind of like, wow, this is amazing, because you're just going to set yourself up for failure. That's what I notice people doing all the time is they'll get discouraged very quickly with working out because they feel like they're not seeing results, when if they would just hold off a little bit, then they would probably end up getting the result that they actually want if they just would stick with it. And right now my hair looks like this because I have a leave-in conditioner in it. Well, not even a leave-in conditioner, it's a cholesterol treatment for hydrating because of all the flat ironing I do and stuff like that. I like to sometimes really just hydrate my hair and let it do what it needs to do naturally so that it can, restore some of the moisture that I lose from all the flat ironing. Obviously, I haven't been bleaching it lately, and I don't plan to go back to bleaching it anytime soon. I'm not going to swear it off. It's not like I didn't like the look, but long term, it's really hard on your hair. And I was doing everything that I had to do to keep my hair healthy, and a couple friends that are stylists gave me some stuff to put in my hair to make it more healthy while I was doing the blonde. But it's just when you're doing that blonde, it's gonna sometimes get really dry. So that was something that I was dealing with, and I got tired of it. And then I had that situation where some of it got burnt off in the back because they used a product on me that they don't usually use, that I don't usually use. So I've been dyeing my own hair when I dye it, but that's even been like a month or so now. Sometimes it's just good to let yourself do what you have to do and not worry about all the extras. Like right now, my main focus is working out. For me, a lot of this stuff is almost like if you're customizing a car. Like, you're going to do all the stuff under the hood that you need to do first, and then you put the paint job on it. So the hair, like dyeing my hair and stuff like that is all just kind of paint job stuff. So for right now, I'm not worried about that, and it's not something I'm going to concern myself with. I am liking where my life is because I told you guys that I was going to take a break from doing everything, and then I lied to you because I ended up doing an open mic on Thursday night. My friend Delilah runs an open mic at the Kava Cafe, and so I went to go do that. I don't know how regular I'm going to be there. I don't know how regular I'm going to be anywhere. Right now, I'm just letting myself do what it is I want to do, and whatever naturally I feel like doing on that particular day is what I'll end up doing on that particular day. Like, planning for stuff that I'm not being paid for makes absolutely no sense to me. So being like, I'm going to be at this particular open mic and I'm going to make it so I'm here why? Like, why would I want to do that with my time? And I am much happier since I'm not really talking to a lot of people, because when you talk to people, they'll, want to talk to you about things that a lot of times you don't care about. And like I said, I did get influenced for a minute there, and I was starting to care about stuff that usually just wouldn't really enter my mind. And so being away from people has made it so. And then also, putting out the podcast, the people that actually like me, that actually know me in real life, will listen to the podcast or watch the podcast, because they know that's a quick way to figure out exactly what it is I'm going through and where it is I'm at. And I talked about the fact that anybody that comes to me with any negativity is going to get cut out of my life. So people haven't been coming to me with negativity, and that's exactly where I want things to be, because I don't know if it's because of the way that I was raised, or a combination of the way that I was raised and never being in the closet when it came to doing stand-up. But I just don't look for people to like me or to necessarily like what it is I'm doing outside of off stage. When I perform, obviously I want to do a good job for whoever I'm performing for, because they're paying me or because I've chosen to be there and I want to work new material out. But when it comes to just like, wanting people in a social way to just like me, that's not where I'm at with life in general. My life doesn't revolve around people liking me. My best friend, I talk to her maybe once a week, East Coast bestie Renee. I talk to her maybe once a week, and then I've had a few scattered conversations here and there. And I got booked to do Austin, so I'm going to be doing that. And then, like, work-wise, people will talk to me, but I don't want to just talk to people for the sake of it. I don't feel like I'm missing that in my life, and I don't feel like I'm lonely in any way. And if I want to meet people or just hang out, there's a couple bars that I can go to where I know that people are my vibe, and not just being gay bars, even though like one of them definitely is a gay bar. But I know that if I go to that particular bar, I can hang out with people that I already know, and I can also hook up if I want to. And that's kind of been a lot of my life experience, and I don't need anybody to go to the bar with me. Like, I'm not one of those people where it's like, come out with me, let's hang out. Because, like, I remember when I was younger, I had these friends that I always hung out with. There were these two other gay boys that I used to hang out with. And this was when I was still going to clubs on a fake ID. I think I was 17 at that time, or maybe 18 at the time. And there was one night where it was getting later and later, and my mom was like, "You look bored. Why aren't you out?" Because, I used to go out all the time. And there's a circuit in Phoenix. Well, there's not anymore that I know of. And maybe there still is. I'm just not in that age range anymore. But in Phoenix, there was a circuit. You'd go to, like, this bar on one night. Like it was Harley's on Monday. And then Tuesday it was... Wednesday was BS West. Tuesday might have been, Sunday was Foster's. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Like, there was just a circuit that you would go to the bars, and that was the place to be seen on that particular night in gay life in Phoenix if you were young. And so there was a particular night where I was just hanging out, and it was getting later and later, and my regular two rolling buddies weren't available, or maybe they were being weird because they always had these situations, and I had the situations too. Like, I think now LGBT in general is a lot more of a detached sort of thing, because when I was younger, we all had these boyfriends and these miserable toxic relationships that we were all in, which I had to block somebody on Facebook today. It was the one I told you guys about the other day, but we'll talk about that later. But so we were all in these toxic relationships on and off, and this was one of the times where I was completely single. I wasn't dating anybody, or maybe me and the guy that I had my toxic situation with were on a real off situation. But I just remember I had been out a lot, and my mom was like, "Why are you here? Why aren't you out? And why do you look so bored?" And I was just like, "Well, so-and-so and so-and-so aren't around today." And my mom was just like, "Yeah, don't worry about that. Go out. If you want to go out, then you go out, and don't worry about anybody." And so from that point on, because I did go out and I had a great time by myself. And, when you're out and you're young and you're gay and you're, really living life. And now I don't like dance and party as much as I used to, but back then I really used to. And so when you're living that life, it's like you can have a good time by yourself. People will introduce themselves to you, and then you just end up having a good night. And so from that point on, I never worried about anybody. And it's weird that I remember it so definitively, like that was the time. Like, my mom, believe it or not, it was my mom that taught me or told me, like, just don't wait for anybody. Go out and have a good time by yourself. And so I did. But then when I was growing up, my mom would always do that with me too, where she would give me money and tell me to go to the mall because, I lived in a small town, and sometimes the kids, because I grew up in this weird situation where it was kind of strict, but it was also kind of lenient. Like, I could be out as much as I wanted to until the sun went down. And there were certain people that I wasn't supposed to hang out with. And I really was good about not hanging out with them because the people I was told not to hang out with, I really didn't want to hang out with anyway. So it didn't bother me. They just were kids that I hung out with once or twice. And my mom caught what their vibe was like. And I knew what their home situation was like too. So I can understand, especially now, why it was my mom didn't want me to hang out with these particular kids. And so, since I had that much leniency when it came to me being out, I could be out as long as I wanted to, as long as the sun hadn't come up. Sometimes my mom would see me again just sitting there not doing anything, and she'd be like, why don't you go do something? And when I say she'd give me money to go to the mall, I wasn't like she'd give me some ridiculous shopping money or something like that. She'd just give me like $5. And when I was younger, this is going to make me sound old, but when I was younger, like $5 went a longer way. And so I could go to the mall and I could, buy something to eat. If I wanted to go to the Tasty Freeze, I think was what we had in my town. If I remember correctly, what was in that mall, it was a Tasty Freeze. And I could buy myself some fries and, a little combo meal. And, so when I was young, I guess I was like that a lot too, because sometimes I'd have a regular rolling buddy that I hang out with, but sometimes their parents would be at work, and so they weren't allowed to leave until their parents came home or that kind of stuff. Or if I wanted to, I could go over their house, but I didn't always like being at people's houses. Like I told you guys, I haven't... My whole life, I haven't always liked being around people. And, and it's not like I hate being around people, but just, it's not my favorite thing. It's not the place that I'm the most comfortable is when I've got a bunch of people around me. But for some reason, people have always wanted to be around me on some level or another. And so I don't feel like a lot of people feel, and I've had people get mad at me about that or have feelings about that and express that to other people. I've had people bring it up more recently where they're just like, he's such an asshole. And I don't understand why everybody wants to be around him all the time. I don't know why so many people just flock to him. They all just, like, there was a whole speech that was given about me on that, where they were just like, I don't know why people just like him so much. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. Shut up. Maybe if you had a better personality, people would want to be around you too. Or maybe that's not even it, because according to the internet, I have a terrible personality. But for some reason, people always want to be around me. Who knows? Maybe they're using me. Maybe they think that I can do more for them than I can actually do. Whatever it is, it's not something that I'm looking for. And I even tell people, like, the last time I really hung out with anybody, I think it was when I was with my friend Zach Elk, which, if you don't remember Zach Elk, he was a former, he was the former sidekick here on Unbothered by Thai Rivera, and I will always love Zach Elk. And if you hate this podcast, then you hate Zach Elk, because Zach Elk, what happened was I was going through that time in LA where there was a bunch of controversy surrounding me. And I swear, I live the life of a celebrity, but I don't have the money. It's so frustrating, but it really is a celebrity lifestyle I live a lot of times, because people will be talking about me. There's hate channels dedicated to me. There've been forums dedicated to hating me. And so it's like all this stuff is going on online, but then I go out in the real world and everything's great, which is why I always tell people, if you're ever feeling suicidal about what people are saying about you online, go out in the real world and see how people react to you. If people are chill and cool and even happy to see you, then fuck the internet. Why pay attention to what the internet is saying? Outside of positivity, I'm not really accepting the internet as anything other than that. And I know more recently I have been caught up in more stuff and, maybe cared a little bit more than I should have. But I've always told people that anytime you decide to make a change, and that's when it comes to your body, your mental health, when it comes to anything to do with your life, anytime you decide to make a change, you are 100% in control of that. And don't let anybody tell you, or don't let anybody try to dictate the pace of your life or where your life is supposed to be. Like, I mentioned having to block somebody online because I put this silly picture, it was a screen cap of post that I put up on Twitter. And the post said something like, sometimes I worry that I'll never find somebody toxic enough to settle down with. And on Twitter, it's not like it went crazy viral or popular or whatever, but it did get a fair amount of likes. And I was like, all right, people are responding to this, so let me go ahead and post it on my Facebook fan page. So I posted it on my Facebook fan page, and then, people were just laughing and putting silly comments. And then somebody that I mentioned last week that, has a problem with me for, I don't remember what. And really, if I thought about it, I could remember what on this particular one. But what does it matter? Like, it really doesn't, but anyway, so this person decides to chime in, and they're like, well, what about you? You're toxic enough for whatever. And, there was a part of me that's used to that arguing life or making people look stupid online. And there were several things I could have said to this person that really would have just cut them to the quick. And that's why people do get mad at me and why people don't like me in some cases, because I'm really good at finding that one thing that you don't like about yourself or that I know will bother you, and just I can dig into it, but I don't want to live that way anymore. And it's not for any other reason than I just don't want to live that way anymore. And technically it's been quite a while since I've really done that anyway. I guess maybe one or two of the episodes, I don't even know that's what was happening in those episodes as much as I was calling out what the actual problem was with these particular people, or what I noticed from these particular people. But anyway, the point is, I knew the stuff that I could have said to get on this person's nerves. I know what I could have said to make them look stupid for other people that are watching the thread. But since I didn't feel it, I was just like, let me just delete this comment and block this person. Because why should this person be or have the power to dictate what my mood is? Because I was in a good mood. And even when I saw his comment, I still was in a good mood, just because for me, it felt like, how desperate are you that you're still looking for my attention after I've already blocked you on every other platform? And I just never thought to block you off my fan page, because I figured you would have either unfollowed my fan page or you would unfollow it at the time you saw me. Like, I had that happen last night with me on Twitter, where I saw that I was accidentally still following somebody. And really, how much of an accident can it be? I just forgot that I was following that particular person on Twitter when we got into it. And I have no relationship with this person anymore. And they've said some negative things about me, but so what? I've said negative things about them, so I'm not going to act like that's such a victimization. But yeah, so I noticed that I was still following them. So I just politely and quietly unfollowed them, and they probably have enough followers that, well, they don't have that many followers. But anyway, they have enough followers that they probably didn't notice that I unfollowed them. And so why would it have to be a thing? What would I do otherwise? Go to their profile or try to find a comment from them or a tweet from them and post something like, no, that's not the way my life is working right now. And like I said, people can try to lure me in or bait me into having any kind of response to them, but that's just something that's not going to happen. It's just completely off the menu, because I don't, and it's not that, see, because saying you don't care sounds, it's just an energy suck. Like, when you're getting into it with people that in the end are going to have no bearing on your actual life. Because as much as people will try to have a bearing on your life, very few people can have an actual bearing on your life if you don't allow them to. And so why should I put myself in a position where I'm having to argue with people that aren't at all important in my life? And one of the things that does baffle me a little bit, but I've stopped trying to even understand it a little bit, is the people that seem to dislike me the most, like the people that seem to hate me, are people that have never met me in real life, never hung out with me in real life. So it's like I could understand if I had dated you and you had a problem with me and something went wrong in that situation, or even if we had been actual friends and you had a problem with me. But the people that like have the most venom towards me are people that I've either met once in my life or in some cases never met in my entire life. As much as they'll try to claim that we know each other, it's like, no, I haven't. I don't know you. I haven't met you. We don't know each other. So I don't know why you have these strong feelings for me, but whatever it is, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I noticed that in a lot of cases, a lot of the men that have problems with me either grew up without fathers or have strained relationships with their fathers. And I think that there is something there. I think there is something that where people, because obviously if you have really strong feelings about me from seeing me online and I don't know you from online or real life, then you probably in your head had a relationship with me that I don't have with you. You probably have some sort of thing where you looked for me for some kind of approval, or you thought that I was some kind of stamp that legitimized either what you were doing or what you were thinking. And so when I finally noticed you online and I didn't give you the approval that you were looking for, or I said something that you didn't agree with and you felt like that was some kind of, blow to your ego, or I had, cut you to your soul, or whatever it was that these people were thinking, that's when they started to hate me. And I don't, I can't pretend to be a part of that because I'm just not. Because it's a truly one-sided relationship. It's something that I'm not a part of. So I don't know why it is these people develop these feelings towards me. I don't think it's healthy, but also nobody else's mental health is my responsibility. That like I can't assume responsibility. It's like the same with when people in the LGBT community get mad at me about certain things I say. It's like, well, you're saying that the things that I'm saying could be hurtful towards the LGBT community. But I think most of what I do when it comes to LGBT is actually empowering if you look at it, because I completely remind people that the outside world doesn't really matter. If you're LGBT, if you're gay, if you're bi, if you're transgender, even if you're non-binary, which I don't really buy as a thing, and I've been very clear about that, you don't need to look to me or anybody else for any kind of validation. You find that within yourself, and then that's where you operate from, because nobody should matter. You shouldn't base your happiness on what strangers on the internet think about you. And that's something, even though, like I said, there were certain things that would bother me more recently, and I did give into some of those urges, those temptations, those weaknesses, you could say. But at the same time, it's like, I've never based my self-worth on what the internet thinks about me, because the internet had opinions about me before I saw it as anything other than a way to have fun. Like if you look at my internet from, like the kind of stuff that I talked about and did, like, in 2010, 2009, I was all about just being silly on the internet and having fun. Like, I wasn't really talking about any kind of heavy hitting issues. I remember one time, I think it was Jacob Siroff had mentioned it to me, and something had happened. I don't know if it was like a terrorist type thing or it was a mass shooting, but it was something like that. And it had to be like 2012, because 2012 I was still keeping it pretty light as well. And so I think it was around 2012. I remember I was at Rooster T. Feathers for the weekend, which is a club up in Sunnyvale, which is Northern California, right near the Apple plant, or or Apple headquarters. And so I remember that's where I was one of the last times that somebody had referenced how light my internet was, just because somebody, like, something big like that had happened, and it was at that level, like mass shooting or terrorist attack, something big like that, on the news. And I had posted about this annoying bitch at the Abercrombie. And it wasn't like expose the Abercrombie or whatever. It was just a quick, like, yeah, this annoying bitch at the fucking Abercrombie. And I don't remember what it was. I just remember because I think it was Jacob Siroff that told me, he was like, everybody else was talking about that today. And then you just were like, this chick at the Abercrombie. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the way my life works. And even, like some of my more controversial moments over the last couple of years, or I think it's been honestly like a good, and there have been breaks or whatever, but a good 7 years, let's see, since probably a year or a year and a half before Trump got into office. So what's that now? Like 5-6 years? And well, from the time he started running to his actual, and then maybe a year, before that. So maybe like 7 years that this has been going on, which if you consider, I've been doing stand-up for 18 and I've been on the internet since, whatever, when MySpace was a thing. So what's that, 2003? So so about the same. Yeah, and that makes perfect sense, because I remember when I first started doing stand-up, there was a guy named Bino that ran Marvin Mary's was the name of the bar that he ran, and it was in Culver City. And I was at Marvin Mary's regularly, and Bino had this daughter named Valentino. And it was, I remember her name being Valentino because she was named by her brother. Bino was a cool guy, and he had told her older brother, that he could name the baby when the baby was born. The baby ended up being Valentino. And even though technically, if you were going by the gender that names are supposed to be, she would have been Valentina. Instead, Bino named her Valentino because the son, his baby at the time, said, name her Valentino. And so Valentino had told me about MySpace, and she mentioned that it was something like Friendster, and I had no idea what Friendster was because I just wasn't an internet guy like that when I was younger. I wasn't thinking about that. I was going to clubs, and before I moved to LA to do stand up, I was living I was living a married life, and I was with my ex at the time. And so I wasn't thinking about, being online. We used computer for work, but that's all we used computer for. Oh, and that's back in the days of downloading off LimeWire and Napster. So, like, we would have music that we would burn onto CDs. But yeah. So that was the extent of my internet use until that point. So from 2003 to whatever it was, 2014, I was just fun on the internet. And the only thing that I ever was political about was Obama. I wanted Obama to get voted into office. And so I was very big on that. But it wasn't like there was anybody arguing, because I was living in LA and I was in the entertainment industry, and pretty much everybody that was in the entertainment industry, at least openly, was supportive of Obama. So it was a very low risk thing to say, to just put something out that was, favorable towards Obama back then. But then after Obama got voted in, then I didn't really feel like there was anything to argue or any fight to be had, because the guy that I wanted to go into the office had gone in the office. So, like, what would I be upset about? And then after the Obama situation, that's when I got in a little bit, like, my first little taste of internet trouble was I did a joke about gay marriage. And like for me, the joke wasn't about gay marriage. It was about my annoying roommate. But it happened to be that my roommate at the time was really big on gay marriage. And he was really pushing it all the time. And so I got annoyed with him. So I wrote this joke that was bitchy and it was fun. And it did really well everywhere I went. And then, like, he made a deal of that, even though we were roommates. And some other LGBT friends of his decided to troll one of my videos because they thought I was being insensitive about gay marriage, and really they were protective about him. And I don't blame them. You know, like that's like good friend stuff. If you feel like your friend has been slighted or is being read on the internet, then I can understand how maybe you would decide to like online attack his roommate who's a comedian. But I didn't care, it wasn't like I really got into it with them or whatever. I was just like, whatever. And then that turned into a little bit of a thing for them. But I was like, because I really have come a long way, and I'm not saying this in a good way. I'm not saying this in a good way. I'm gonna go ahead and correct it, because I really have come a long way in where I'm at or where I was with actually caring what was being said on the internet. Because I used to not care at all. Like, I'd just be like, all right, well, that's an opinion, and then I would not pay attention to it. And so that's why I say the internet had opinions about me before I thought of the internet as anything but fun, is because these people were mad at me, and there were different attempts made to try to keep me off stuff. But like, everybody knew that I was a comedian, and also that I was a gay comedian. And for as much as people will try to talk shit or whatever, I've done a lot when it comes to LGBT and stand-up, and that's something that it's one of the reasons that Samson McCormick, if you're not familiar with Samson McCormick, look him up online. It's SAMPSON McCormick. And he was around, I think he started maybe just before me. And he's one of the few other LGBT comics that I can say that's been around for as long as I have and been just as out as I am. And he worked an even harder, well, maybe not harder. And I'm not trying to compare us, because he's somebody that I really respect. And I don't think he would compare us either in that way. And it's like 100% like two-way street of respect between me and Samson McCormick. Well, I had him on the comedy festival, the Laughed Out Queer Comedy Festival. And, but the thing is, like, I'm one of the few, like, me and Samson, especially when it comes to gay men, are like two of the only comedians that were out from the moment we came out and being as gay as we were and talking about our experiences, and at the same time not playing to any kind of stereotype, but then at the same time not at all trying to mask it or hide the fact that we were gay or in any way pull back on what we were. Samson was doing more the black rooms and like church rooms, which I really give it up to him for, and I was doing more the redneck rooms and the white rooms, and mainstream. And Samson was doing mainstream at the same time as well, where he could here and there. But back then, if you were gay, you automatically weren't considered family friendly. So certain opportunities just weren't open to you. And that's something that's still a little bit of a thing. And I've tried to express that to people before, but they don't want to understand that. Like, that's one of the things that does get me about stand-up. And it's one of the reasons that I had posted a year ago that I was going to quit stand-up. My friend Renee sent that to me, and apparently the anniversary was on Saturday night when I was in Sacramento, because the next day, Renee sends me a text message. She's like, oh, I forgot to send this to you yesterday. And it was that post I put up. I put up this post on Facebook, and I might have it, like, because Renee sent it to me in a message. I'll go ahead and put it right here. And I put something about, what was it? It was like quitting stand-up and that I'm too good for the stand-up world, and I still feel that way. Like when it comes to like being too good for the stand-up world, I really do feel like I am, because I'm one of the most genuine people on the actual stand-up scene. Like when it comes to me, that's one of the things that I'll tell you why I was bothered by certain things that people have said about me and stuff, because I will not pretend to be something for you other than what I am. Like what you see is what you get with me. Like we're friends. And yeah, with regular friends, there'll be certain things that get on your nerves about them, and then, vice versa and all that kind of stuff. And with friends, I accept that. But some of the stuff people have said about me has been outright like either lies, or it's been embellished to a point where the truth is been obscured. It's like you're almost not even telling the real story anymore, the true story on any level. Like, yeah, we were in this particular city, or yeah, we were traveling together, but you changed so many things. And so many people have done that recently, and it's what it's done is reinforce my resolve to just be what and who I am and get to where I'm going, and not let anybody stop me, not even myself or my own, like, yeah, I want to talk shit back, or I want to correct this story. I don't want to correct anything. I want to keep my mouth shut as far as all of that stuff goes, and just do the stuff I have to do, because it's like the old saying, I could show you better than I could tell you. So I could sit here and say I have this going and I have that going, and I will keep you guys posted on the things that I have coming up. Like I said, I'm going to be in Austin, but that's not till September, so I don't have to promote it yet. But I will be promoting the things I'm doing and talking about the different things that I have coming up, but only in the way to let you know what it is I have coming up. So if anybody wants to come out and see me, you can come out and see me. But as far as like trying to prove to anybody, well, this is what I am and this is what I've done. And yeah, I'll tell you stories about where my place is in LGBT history, because that's another thing that I don't feel like a lot of people will really have that I do have. As much as people will try to talk shit, and as much as people will try to make it seem like it wasn't a particular way, I will go down in history. And that's just a matter of fact, because I was one of the first doing a very particular thing. And there's so much footage out there of me, and I've made so much controversy, and the people that hate on me are only making it bigger. They're only making me a bigger thing than I already was. Like, you're trying to stop a fire by pouring lighter fluid on it. And so, like, continue to grow the fire. I'm fine with that 100%. And like I said, there was a minute where it bothered me, but it doesn't anymore, because this is what being still and only allowing your thoughts and only your thoughts into your head is. You will figure out exactly where it is you are on a lot of things. Like, a lot of people are afraid of their thoughts. A lot of people are afraid to be alone because they think, well, what if I get suicidal? What if I get this? What if I begin to feel isolated? What if? So, like, go through that. Go through all of it. Like, it's one of the ways that you become an actual alchemist, if you didn't know anything about that. It's like you do have to go through the actual fire. You have to put yourself in those positions. And in losing a lot of the people around me, a lot of the people that were, and I don't say this in a hateful way, but like obviously dead weight because they didn't stay around. You know, they were more like hangers on, trying to see if I was going to eventually do something for them, or like maybe jump on the next train, which is what they did in a lot of cases. And I don't have a problem with that. Because for me, the thing is, I realized that, like, being alone, yes, after you've had a lot of people around you and kissing your ass, and literally kissing your ass everywhere you go, certain people will kiss your ass, and they know who they were, and that's why some of them are what they're like now. You know, they try to act like I'm a horrible person, but really I didn't do anything to be branded a horrible person. But that's what makes them feel better, because they turned out not to be the friends that they were pretending to be. But when you first experience that and you're like, well, I kind of thought that we all agreed that these certain things were supposed to not be good or not be acceptable or not what we do as professional stand-up comedians or not what we do as courtesy two other comedians. And, I'm not going to go into the specifics, but you guys have been following along if you watch my podcast, and you know the different things that I've gone through with different people and the different things that I've gotten, had people turn on me for or whatever. But, like, when you really do feel that way, like, oh, I thought that, one, I thought we were friends, and two, I thought that we all agreed that these were kind of the rules of engagement. When you first experience that, you will be a little bit let down, and you will feel a little bit like, I thought these people were my friends. And even the stuff that I talked about with the residency and the way that went south, like, for me, that wasn't about trying to flame anybody, because I would have chosen completely different words and completely different ways of describing things. At the same time, I do have to keep it entertaining, because this is a podcast and people are listening to me talk for an hour. And, I don't pretend to have the biggest audience in the world, but the people that listen are consistent. If you look at my numbers, like if I talk about something particularly inflammatory, you'll notice there's a spike. But if you look at the numbers, consistently, I get around the same number. Well, the same thing's happening on the audio version, is I get around the same number. So I owe it to those people to make sure that this podcast is at least a little bit entertaining. If you're going to listen to me, like, I don't worry about jokes per minute, obviously, or making you laugh the whole time, but I want you to either learn something, I want you to laugh, I want you to enjoy yourself, even if you're just like, Ty's stupid this week, because that's what I do when I watch Wendy Williams, which I haven't watched Wendy Williams lately, but she's one of the shows that I actually did watch regularly. Charlemagne the God is another thing I watch regularly. Tim Dillon is another thing that I watch regularly. But like, when you have certain things that you like watching, you notice on some days, you're like, yeah, they're right on my wavelength today. Or other days they're like, they just made me laugh the whole time. I had such a good time. And then some days you're just like, yeah, this motherfucker is off today. Like, I'm not on board with any of what they're saying. And maybe you, like, not hate them, but you do. Maybe you're like, because they're your friend in your head. Wendy Williams always says that, but it's like, it's such a appropriate way of describing it. So they're your friend in your head. And like, I know for some people, I'm a friend in your head, and so like, sometimes you really don't agree with the friend in your head, but just like a regular friendship, like, maybe you'll be like, all right, maybe I should take a week off listening, or maybe, I don't need to hear every thought you have on this next one, or forward this part, or whatever, but you come back because you have some kind of loyalty in a way, or you enjoy the overall message, even if you don't agree with everything that particular person says. But I do feel like I have a obligation to be somewhat entertaining for you guys. So I use colorful language to describe things and stuff like that. But really, for me, when I talked about that particular situation especially, it was more about the disappointment, because it really was a good opportunity and a big opportunity for both of us. And it wasn't me being mad about that stuff. I was disappointed, because originally I was willing to completely let it go, and then I ended up finding out or hearing from other people. And again, this is why I say I'm glad to just be on my own right now, because if I had been on my own back then I never would have heard that to begin with. But I heard from other people that, like, they were telling people publicly that the reason that they didn't want to do the show with me after all was because of my reputation, and they were worried it was going to hurt other things. And it was like, well, my reputation was the same from, like, we were only like officially working on that idea for like less than a month. It was when we were in El Paso, which was like May 15th or whatever, and then the first shows were going to be the 13th and 14th, or the 14th and 15th, whatever that weekend was, or maybe it was the 8th and 9th, who fucking knows. But anyway, yeah, and so I got disappointed in that, because it was like, yeah, don't be telling people that's the reason when that's not really the reason. Like, really, this was the reason. And that's what I said on the podcast, was because I don't think a lot of people realize the amount of work that a lot of things are going to be. Like, yes, you will get some great opportunities, and I don't ever worry about that part, when it comes to like not getting another opportunity. Somebody will always want to fuck with me. That's just what it is. And as much as that pisses some people off, some people will always want to fuck with me. I'm very professional when it comes down to me actually working. I just got a message today from somebody that's worked with me in the past and just like, you know, wanting to check in with me and see what I have going. That's how I got the Austin thing too, was like, you know, somebody that I've worked with in the past. Like, I'm very professional when it comes down to it. But I think a lot of times people think when they're going to work with me that it's going to be like, you know, super easy and we're just going to open the doors and people are going to start coming in. And I don't ever believe that that's the way anything is going to work at this particular point. Like, once you build your reputation, you build your name to a point nationwide, or even like become Las Vegas synonymous, which I'm also on my way to being. Like, you would be surprised the number of comedians that hit me up asking me specifically about Las Vegas. And right now I'm not talking to anybody, so I don't help anybody. I'm just not in a rude way, but I'm just like, you know, yeah, I can tell you where to go to do some mics, and if you want to hit these people up independent of me, go ahead and do that. But like right now, I'm not trying to, like, you know, be anybody's plug to anything, because that's just not, you know, that would also take, because when I recommend people for stuff, I'll give a full-on either email or Facebook introduction, or it's a lot for me to do like that kind of stuff. And then with the volume of comics that will hit me up through the various platforms of social media asking me to hook them up with stuff, it's like, and then also it would also take for me to like assess which shows they would be best for as far as professional or paid shows go, you know. So it's a lot more than just like just mention my name here or just hit this person up or that kind of stuff. It's so for me, you know, like it's not really how I want to spend my time on that either right now. And, you know, like I said, I don't want to contact a lot of people. I don't want to be, you know, because once you start talking to people, they're like, oh, do you know what so-and-so said? And the other day I heard this. And it's like, I'm not out. I don't know why anybody's thinking about me anyway, which makes no sense when people act like you're poison, or, you know, like if something's really poison or you really think something has no value, you pay it no mind. You know, like, do you stop and argue with every homeless person that shouts something ridiculous at you when you're going to the 7-Eleven or the Circle K or the AM/PM or the Speedy Mart or whatever it is you have in your local area? No, if they're crazy, you just keep moving because you're like, they're crazy. But if you feel like somebody has a point, if you feel like somebody is actually has value, then, you know, you either try to debate it with them, you try to argue it with them, you try to hear them out, or you try to discredit them because you don't want them actually spilling the tea. So this is the way why people react to me the way that they react to me, even though they'll try to act like it's because he's crazy. It's because it's like I'm none of the things that people say about me. I'm just have valid points, you know, and I've called out things that really should be called out, but I won't be the person to call them out anymore because I've also decided to limit my circle even more when it comes to what it was I'll have around. Like I mentioned one particular person a couple episodes back where I said that I would choose not to work with that person anymore. Well, that's 100% me choosing not to work with that person. That person, the reason I even brought them up was because they would come to me asking for work, and then I was hearing and seeing that they were saying negative things about me or supporting negative things about me. So at that point, I felt like it was important that I address that because it was making me uncomfortable. Because it's like, do you think I don't know what it is you're saying about me or that you're supporting negative things about me? And if you do know that, think that, then why would you think that I'd be a good resource for you as far as work goes? Like, why would I help you get work? And that is 100% the way that relationship worked out. That person never hooked me up with anything. That was always me hooking them up with stuff. So why would I be trying to get you work, or why would you come to me for work when you already know that you're supporting negative things that are being said about me? Like, that makes no sense. And it just, at first I wasn't going to address that, but then they asked me more than once if I could get them work, and I just felt like, well, now I feel like I have to say something. So initially I handled that through private text message and just let them know that I, would prefer that we just skip the talking when I see them out in public, because I had seen them out in public a couple nights before. And again, they tried to talk to me like we're besties or whatever, because we were cool. We were very cool, until I found out that they were in support of the negativity that was going around about me. And then when I had talked to them about that, they had said that they know that that's not true, the negativity that was going on around me or about me. But and I don't hold hard feelings, but at the same time, I'm not going to help you get work, and especially work with me. Like, why would I take you on the road with me or invite you to do anything if you're talking to people or supporting things that are negative about me? Like, that's me helping you get ahead so that you can try to tear me down, or I don't know how that would even make sense in your head. So I address that just on private text message. And then through another party, again, this is why I tell you guys that I don't talk to people anymore, and I don't want to talk to people anymore outside of, like, when people see me out, I will speak. I will say hello. But I won't be having private conversations, heart-to-hearts with people, any of that stuff. Nobody should have that kind of access to me. Like, that's what I've learned from all of this, because I'm also the more interesting part of the conversation, no matter what conversation I'm in. So I don't really need anybody to, jump in and like I'm bored or I need company, or I don't know what these people think. But anyway, but yeah. So, I just don't know what value it is people think that I would necessarily get from them when they're not positive towards me. So anyway, what the other person ended up telling me was that the person I sent the text message to had told them that they were puzzled about the text message. So that's when I addressed it on Unbothered and was very clear. And then that person publicly went out of their way to misconstrue that, which is something that I've lost all respect for people on. And like I said, I don't need to go into specifics because people know what they've done and who they are and what they've been. And for me, that is enough, because it doesn't matter what the rest of the world knows. As long as you know and I know what it was I was talking about and what it was you were doing, and a lot of the people around you know what it was that I was talking about and they saw what it was I was talking about, then it doesn't really matter what you say publicly, because everything you're saying publicly is just you trying to save face and kind of PR on your point. And I don't see any reason that I would need any PR for telling just the truth or for just talking about life as it is. It just is what it is. So, anyway, it's almost time for me to get out of here. So I will finish up with with that message when I said that, I was going to quit stand-up. I don't know exactly why I posted it. To tell you the truth, I was high out of my mind when I posted it. And I don't feel like anybody should have any feelings about me saying that. Most people shouldn't even remember me saying that unless you just don't have a life. But if it's something that concerns you, if it's something that bothers you, I don't know why. Here's where I could see it would bother people. If I had said, I'm moving on to a life outside of stand-up comedy, please help me support this endeavor by donating to my GoFundMe. And then I raked in a bunch of GoFundMe money and decided not to quit, and you were one of the contributors, then I could understand you having feelings about that. But other than that, it's just something I said. And I never started a GoFundMe. I've never asked for people to support me in moving out of comedy. I said that one time a year and a week ago now, or going on a year and a week ago now, a year and 5 days ago now. And then I left it alone. I haven't turned it into my life's mission. It's not like I've, had a countdown clock to when I was going to quit doing stand-up. It's none of that. I haven't done any of that. I said that one time, and then I left it alone. And everybody that watches this podcast knows that I've always said it's 100% my prerogative to completely change my mind at any time I decide to. And because of the amount of hate that I've gotten, and because I feel like I have a duty and a responsibility to show people exactly how you let people know that they don't matter by just doing you and by just continuing to progress, no matter how late in life you may be, no matter how much time people may think you have wasted. If you know what your path is and you know you're on the right track and you know what you have to do and you're not doing it solely because of spite, but spite's definitely in there a little bit, then you keep doing what you do, and whatever you do, you stay unbothered.